Welcome to The Real Dope, a podcast for anyone walking alongside someone battling addiction, based on the powerful book, The Real Dope on Dealing with an Addict, by sisters Elizabeth Brand and Meridith Powell. Each episode will explore practical strategies, share authentic stories, and provide the honest guidance. Let's begin today's journey and turn survival into strength.
Hey, this is Meredith Powell, and welcome to The Real Dope. How did I get here? How did you get here? This is a podcast all about what it's like to love, live with, and have to deal on a regular basis with an addict. I'm hanging out here with my sister, Beth Brand. Hi, Beth. And, I just want to remind you, we're not therapists, but we wanted to do a podcast that was designed for people like us. I mean, people like you. There's so much literature, so much information out there to help addicts. But what about those of us who love addicts, who live with addicts, who deal with addicts? Because in today's show, I think we're going to dive into what is the most important question, but it's also the question we get asked the most. So what is it?
It is, are they an addict? People they want to know that because they're like, it's a big question. It's a hard question for people because if you say yes to it, you send yourself down a huge path of labeling. And then what do I do? And it's confusing. And it's also a confusing question because addiction is confusing. Don't you think so?
I think it's really confusing. I also think, when I was thinking about this, I was thinking, I, I'm trying to remember when I first used to ask myself that question. Actually, what I think I wanted people to tell me was no,
Mhm.
that the people in my lives were not addicts. It was almost like I was looking for somebody to tell me that what I knew was in front of me
Mhm.
wasn't real because I knew I had to go down that path.
And also, like, that's kind of our experience as children of alcoholics is that people are always telling you what you're looking at isn't what you're looking at. I totally agree with that. And then you start bargaining with yourself. Well, there's good days and bad days. He only had 2 drinks tonight. Well, maybe he's drunk now, but that's not, is it, and then you have categories. Is it just problem drinking or recreational drugs? And you just spin in your head all over the place.
You
And
know what? Well, what I think is interesting about that is, like you said, you bargain with yourself, but then the addict bargains with you. Like
sure.
that's where you tripped yourself up too. Like, well, I only drink on the weekends. Or
Exactly.
I remember, like with my first husband, Doug, he told me he wasn't an addict because he never drank before 5 o'clock, and I bought that. I believe that. Okay, well, that's right because there's rules, right? Addicts do these 10 things. I mean,
Mhm.
that's kind of what you bought into. I think the biggest thing for me was that, and I think it's the importance of this show, is that I didn't want him to be an addict because I
No.
knew how uncomfortable my life was about to become because all of a sudden I had to make a decision if he was an addict.
Mhm. So so when you and I were thinking through all this and living through all this and hiking through all this, the thing we came up with was to turn that question around. And we turned it around to, do you have a problem? Meaning you, the enabler. Is it your problem? And that's the way we decided to start thinking about it. Because it's really hard to judge another person or to know what they're doing, and like we said, addiction is really confusing, but what was not confusing was that we were suffering. That was not confusing. That was right out there in the open every day.
Why do you think it is so hard to define whether you're living with an addict or not?
Because you've been, a frog dropped in the proverbial, water of addiction, and so you're not even seeing clearly anymore. You start to accept behaviors that are nuts that you just see as normal. Like, when I think about, my first husband, like, he used to stay up all night and move the furniture around. I mean, that's weird, but, like, it wasn't harming anyone, so I didn't like, it just became, "Oh, that's just something he does. It's kinda funny." I could tell you a million things like that
Yeah.
happen, and so you're having trouble judging anyway what's normal and what's not normal, and so to try to judge especially another person that's telling you that you're overreacting and you're crazy, and you think, "Well, maybe I am." I mean, I don't know, I'm not an expert in addiction. What do I know? And so how am I, and I look down the list of the 10 things on the online test, and he's only like 5 of them. So how bad is it? And he's never been arrested yet. And, those are all the bargaining that you're doing.
So if somebody's out there and they're listening to this podcast and they're asking themselves, and this is the number one question you
Yeah.
start with. I mean,
Yeah.
it opens up the path to everything else. Is the
Mhm.
number one. So if I'm asking myself, is he an addict? Is she an addict? Are they addicts? Where do where do I start? Like, where do I go with that question?
So what you and I decided was we were no longer going to ask ourselves that question, because even after our husbands died from addiction, we were eventually dating people, and we started to we changed that question to, do I have a problem? Do I have a problem? And my problem was that maybe I was going out with somebody who uh, drank and then, would drive. Or yeah, that bothers me. I don't need that. Or somebody who smoked pot. Like, for a lot of people, that's not a problem, but it's a problem for me. I don't like it. So I
Mhm.
don't wanna live like that. And so that's where the line became a lot easier to draw. And when you put it back on yourself, do I have a problem with this? Is this a problem for me? Is their behavior a problem for me? Then you can do something about it. Then you have agency and action. You're not doing something about their behavior. You're doing something about what you can do, like how you can draw boundaries in your own life.
So I was thinking about this. I was listening to a podcast the other day of a very, very successful couple. They're both unbelievably successful entrepreneurs, have built businesses, sold them. And they were talking about marriage and what makes it work. And he was saying that that he lets his wife be who she is. Like,
Mhm,
he's a vegan, she eats bad food. And he said, I'm not trying to change her. And I was listening to that and I thought, God, I wish I could be that human being because I can't be that human being. Like, a problem for me, I can't live with somebody who drinks every day. Can't
mhm,
do it. I can't live with somebody who, if we are out on a Friday or a Saturday night, would have really more than two drinks. I
mm.
I can't live with that. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure, it's okay. Why isn't it okay? And if the person wants to drink every night, you're not the right person for them.
Mhm.
So then that's how you start defining your life. And like I said, in your head, we can go, we know because we have done it, gone round and round with that question, is he an addict? You're never going to get to an answer on that. And even if you do, what are you going to do about it?
Right.
Like, oh, you're gonna start looking up, treatment programs, you're gonna start then your life becomes defined by the addiction.
Yeah.
You are running around like a person with their like a chicken with their head cut off, and no one else is doing anything. You're going into your enabling behavior, and you're gonna make everything worse.
And the truth is that I think you make such a really good point that, there are plenty of people who live with people who drink every day and
Mhm,
plenty of people who live with people that have two more than two drinks when they go out on the weekend or more than two drinks. And it is not a problem for them.
mhm,
It's a problem for me. I think one of the very first things that we need to do as people who love, care for, and deal with addicts is, I think the most important thing you said is at any point this creating a life that I don't want?
mhm.
And if I had recognized that and brought that into my forefront, that it was okay that I have idiosyncrasies and I'm weird in the sense that I don't wanna live with somebody who drinks every day. Like, you don't wanna live with somebody who smokes pot. Plenty of people who live with people who smoke pot. It's
I don't
it's
wanna live
it's
with
not
somebody
great.
who doesn't show up on time, who
Right.
I don't trust. I
Right.
don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that very so I still think the biggest leap though, like the biggest challenge is starting to accept the fact that once you decide it's a problem, your life is going to become uncomfortable. Like, I think the biggest reason I didn't deal with being married to an addict is I didn't want to change my life. And I
Mhm.
had some amount of comfort of not having to do that.
Yeah, well, for me, I got to be very bossy because you can be,
Yeah.
and I got to be very controlling because I could be, but my whole life ended up being controlling him and, my whole day was planning the day so that nothing terrible happened.
Mhm.
But then that absorbs your entire life, and there's nothing else to give anybody else, and you end up being as bad as the person who is addicted, because your whole life becomes planning. I mean, you don't have time for your children, you don't have time for friends, you don't have time for anything because 'cause you're so self-consumed by this question, "Is he an addict?" And, if he is, then what do I do about it?
So if you come to that conclusion that it's a problem for you,
Mm,
that, how you're living isn't working for you. And I think it's important for people listening to realize that this isn't a question you ask or answer one time.
no, no.
This is going to be because really
But the
what's
important thing is you're not judging their behavior. You're
right.
judging if it's a problem for you.
Exactly. Like, and then you're not allowing them to tell you
Mm-mm,
that it isn't a
mm-mm,
problem,
mm-mm.
because
Because it is a problem for you,
for me,
and only you
absolutely.
can know that.
And if the behavior is a problem right now, the chances that the behavior will get worse are probably pretty strong. I told you that
Mhm,
my husband told me he wasn't an addict because he never drank before 5 o'clock. Guess what?
mhm,
He started drinking at noon. Like
mhm,
it took about a year, but it went there. But I think this is such a simple thing to say. I think it is a very difficult thing to do because the moment that I think you or I, like if we hadn't had each other, I don't
mhm,
think there would have been the strength for people to say, for us to stand in that courage to say this is a problem for me. I have plenty of people right now who will tell me I'm insane because I don't want to live with somebody who drinks every day. Like
right,
they feel like that's judgmental or they feel
mhm,
like, those types of things. So once you accept the fact that it is a problem for you,
mhm.
like what then?
Well, then you start to make your choices about what you want. Like, let me just point out, even when he was not drinking at 4 o'clock, and even though the fact that my husband's thing was, "I've never been arrested," it it was if I'd cut it off then, if I'd said then, "I don't wanna live like this," then I think we would all be living better lives right now,
Mhm.
So it's just, how much pain are you going to give yourself when you answer that question? If Doug said, "Well, I don't drink before 4 o'clock, Meredith, so it's all right." If you'd answered that question, it was a problem for you long before he started drinking before 4 o'clock.
Yes.
You had answered that question. And then from there, then you get to draw the boundaries of your life. Do you stay? Do you go? I mean, if you're in a marriage, do you stay? Do you go? If you have an adult child living at home, do you continue to let them live there? Is this something that you want in your house? You start drawing your own boundaries
Yeah.
around what you need for yourself, not based on whether they drink or whether they take drugs or it's like what I need for me.
Yeah. I think the other important thing too is that I know once I decided it was a problem for me, it wasn't like I left him. It wasn't like I did anything,
Mhm.
but I stopped having the expectation
Mhm.
that he would be different. Like I knew it was a problem. I knew it was a problem for me, but I had to own the fact that I was staying in the problem.
You are staying in the problem. You are making the choice to do that, and no longer are you judging and putting that on them. So
Yeah.
you're no longer coming home and just yelling at them for being for living in that in their addiction. Like, you stop, like, trying to control that. You just control you, and if you choose to stay, you choose to stay, but you are choosing. It's your problem, and you are choosing.
I'm trying to get behind, like, because I think this is one of the hardest things that we ever learned to do. And
Mhm.
that is that, but there's so much freedom in deciding that, um, like, I don't like the situation that I'm in, but I am choosing not to change it right now. And sometimes there's very valid reasons. Like, if you have kids or you can't afford to live on your own, like sometimes, like the
It's not
decision
it's not that bad.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
like, it's bad, you don't like it, you're not
Yes.
happy, but it's not that bad. So
I I
what is the
think
power?
I think it's the change in focus, and you start to work on yourself instead of trying to work. It's pushing a rock up the hill and going down the other side to work on with the addict. Like, you need to go to rehab and you need to do that. When you make the decision that it's a problem for you, then you maybe get yourself to Al-Anon or maybe get yourself to therapy. I think it takes a lot of the anger out, Meredith, don't you?
Yeah,
It takes
I
a
think
lot of the anger out because because at the end of the first chapter, when this is the question that we ask, our takeaway is you have a problem, you are the solution. Since it's your problem, you can solve it. You can't solve the other person's problem.
I think the physical impact of it is incredible. Like, it reminds me of when all your energy is in anger or trying to change something you cannot change, there's no energy going back in to you. Like,
Mhm.
when I eventually separated from my first husband, a lot of really good things started happening in my life, and people would comment on it, and I would say, it's all of a sudden I had been losing all this energy trying to fix him, and all I did was redirect that energy back into me. And it reminds me of you going to Walmart with your driver's license. Do you
Mhm.
remember this?
Mhm.
And you show them your driver's license because you had to show an ID for a
Mhm.
check or something, and they said that wasn't you.
Mhm.
Because and the only difference, I mean, you're still a mom with a
Mhm.
young kid, and you're not in great financial shape. I mean, you still had every mounting weight on top of you. But now all of a sudden you'd own that decision and the energy shift that happened.
Yeah, and all that pressure just left my
Ooh,
face,
yes.
and I just looked totally different after that. I think it also gives you, like, I had agency again. Like,
Yeah.
you become a slave of the addiction. You're just a slave to it because it never stops. It never gets better. Everything you have is gone into this thing that just keeps, just like it's sucking the energy and the lifeblood out of the person who's addicted, it is sucking the energy and lifeblood out of you, and you're going nowhere, nowhere.
Yeah.
And once you take that back and you start to take responsibility for yourself, you focus on your problem, not on a problem you can't fix, you gain agency and things start to move. And
And oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, and that's better for the person who's addicted too.
Yeah, so much better,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yes. So much better.
because they don't have you to blame anymore. Like a
Right.
teenager blames you all the time if you when you're the parent, it's all your fault, and all of a sudden they find themselves at college and they're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
you know,
That's right.
mom's
That's
not
right.
here anymore to blame." And that's
Yeah.
kind of the same thing.
Yeah, and you lose your person to blame, right?
Mhm,
You lose the fact that, like, when you even I think this is so important, and I really want people to get this from this episode because like you said, it really is that first step, is that you may not be changing a single thing about your situation, but just the shift of saying, "I'm here because I am choosing to be here,"
mhm.
is such a powerful first step in starting to focus on healing yourself. And the reason you want to heal yourself is twofold, I think. Number one is it's the only person you can heal. You have no ability to heal anybody else. And the irony is the greatest ability you have to heal your addict is to heal yourself far more than focusing on healing them.
And I'll grant you this, if you're the person in your life who's the addict is a teenager, it's a lot, everything's a lot harder,
Yeah.
or a child, it's a lot harder, um, but to start to think this way, even when you're still responsible for them, is the only way that you're gonna give them the best chance to find their way out of it, you
Yeah.
know?
And like it or not, they have to find their way.
Yeah, I mean, I hate that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm hoping Ozempic changes that. I am, because it's so awful. I wish there was a pill or something that could just bring him back to help, but, so far, no.
Yeah, yeah. But it's but it
But they
is
don't need you feeding it the whole time. And once
no,
you start to put your whole focus there and you start to, like, look into the rehab and look into you're feeding that addiction.
you're feeding that addiction, and I think more importantly, you're feeding a message that says, "I don't think you can recover without me." Like,
Exactly.
I think that, one of the important things to understand about addicts is that they're trying to numb, and they're trying to numb a pain. And that pain has to do with disappointment, sadness, a level of insecurity. And when you interfere,
Mhm.
you're feeding that message. You're reinforcing that all the things that they believe about themselves that are horrible, when you interfere, you're reinforcing that message to them. You have become part of the addicts team in helping them stay an addict.
Mhm. You're not allowing them to stand on their own 2 feet
Yeah.
and,
Yeah. And that's their only path out.
it's only yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm.
So, what's the takeaway from today's episode?
Okay, the takeaway is you have a problem, you are the solution.
I love that. You
The
have a
agency is
problem.
back to you.
The
Correct.
agency is back to you. You need to focus on healing yourself. I
Mhm,
think the other takeaway is that if it is a problem for you, that is acceptable. That it
mhm.
is a problem for you. That my definition of an addict, your definition of an addict, and certainly the addict's definition of an addict can be completely different things.
Mhm.
When it is making your life uncomfortable, you are allowed to change it.
You get to have your feelings.
Yeah. So, what do you think you want to talk about next in the next episode?
I what do you wanna talk about, Meredith?
I think what I want to talk about next is starting the steps of really learning to set boundaries. I think boundaries are one of the most important things that you can adapt because what we talked about in this episode is focusing on the fact of giving yourself permission to be allowed to say it's a problem for you. But most often, as we've talked about in this episode, you don't leave at that point, but for a number of reasons.
Right.
Mostly is you're not ready,
No.
right? And so because of that, you have got to learn to set boundaries. What that means and what I love about boundaries, and we'll talk about this in the next episode, is boundaries allowed me to continue to love the person
Yeah.
and hate the addiction.
Right. Yeah.
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 All right. We'll see you right back here next week for another episode of The Real Dope. How did you get here?